Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today we are going to be talking about Canadian literature. I'm going to be looking at an article from the CBC and go through the 30 Canadian authors that they are saying are making their mark. So I will let you know which authors I've read, which authors are ones that are on my radar, and which ones I've never heard of, because there are several. So before I get into all of that, I also wanted to remind everyone that my friend Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads and I are asking for your help. We are putting together the best can-lit books of the 21st century, and we've already had so many responses, and there is over 300 books that have been submitted so far. I will leave a link below to Lindy's announcement video and my announcement video, and also to the form if you would like to vote for up to 10 of your favorite Canadian books. They have to be published from January 1st, 2000 till now. We will be closing the form on Sunday, August 11th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So please send us your votes. I will also let you know that there are several authors on this list who have been voted for. So I'm going to start with the authors that I've heard of and that I have read. There's only two authors that fit this category. So Christina Wong is a writer and playwright from Toronto, and her book Denison Avenue was illustrated by Daniel Innes. And the book started kind of as an obscure book, and it sold about 300 copies the first year that it was published, and then it was shortlisted for Canada Reads this year in 2024, and it became a best-selling novel. It is a very interesting book, and it helps the reader see the immigrant experience, I think, from a different perspective. It shows how people can be overlooked, even though they've actually lived in a place for decades. So I really look forward to more coming from Christina Wong. I hope that happens. The next book that I read is We Meant Well, and this is by Toronto-based writer Erum, Shazia, Hasan. And this book came to my attention when it was longlisted for the Giller Prize. It was also a gift to me from Lindy. So it's a debut novel that explores the complexities, the power dynamics, and politics of a charitable organization in another country. So this, I think, was very well written, and this is another author that I will definitely be keeping an eye on. Next, I have 6 or 7 authors, maybe more, that are on my radar, and I'm interested in their work. And first is Amanda Peters, who lives in Nova Scotia. She is a writer who is Micmac and settler ancestry, and her debut novel, The Berry Pickers, it's been everywhere. And I've heard really good things. It's a mystery about a young child that goes missing, and this is definitely on my wish list for sure. Amanda Peters has a short story collection coming out, and it's called Waiting for the Long Night Moon, which examines legacies of trauma and resilience. I'm more interested in her novel, but if I really enjoy that, then I will check out the short story collection as well. A book that has come onto my radar more recently is Black Boys Like Me by Matthew R. Morris, who is based in Toronto. And this is a collection of 8 essays about growing up Black and navigating race and identity. And it's based on Morris's own experiences throughout his childhood and also his work as an educator. So I've been seeing this on a few lists, and I am very interested in getting to it eventually. This next book is on my radar because of the best CanLit books of the 21st century list that we're putting together, and it is The Other Valley. It is a debut novel by Vancouver author Scott Alexander Howard. And I'm really interested in the concept of this book and how it uses time. So this is about a town or community that to the east, the town exists 20 years ahead in time. And then to the west, the town exists 20 years behind in time. So I can't wait to find how that all works out. And I'm so glad that at least one person voted for it. Next up is a poetry collection. Once again, came onto my radar because of the CanLit list that we are putting together. And it is Phantompains, and it is by Therese Estacion, who is from the Philippines and now lives in Toronto. And these poems are about the author's experience of having a rare infection that caused her to lose both of her legs. And it's about her recovery, and it includes themes of disability, obviously, and grief. This next author I have been aware of for a while, and actually Lindy has recently talked about her in a couple of her videos. And this is Big Mall. It's a nonfiction book by Vancouver author Kate Black. And this book, it looks at the history of shopping and as malls as places of pleasure and memory and pain. And a lot of the book focuses on the West Edmonton Mall, which I have been to, a number of times. So I really do want to read this. This next author has sort of been on my radar because I've seen the YA novel Hurricane Summer. That was on several lists a couple of years ago. The author is Toronto-based actor and writer Asha Ashanti Bromfield, and you may know her from Riverdale or Lock and Key. And she has a new novel coming out called Songs of Irie, I'm not sure, which is a coming-of-age story that's set in Jamaica in the 1970s. Premee Mohamed is an Alberta-based author that, again, I am aware of because I have seen her book, The Annual Migration of Clouds. I've seen that on some lists, and I love that title. She is a speculative fiction writer, and her latest book is a sequel novella to The Annual Migration of Clouds, and it's called We Speak Through the Mountain. So this is an author that I might try. Please let me know if you have read The Annual Migration of Clouds, and if you enjoyed it, what did you think of it? Because that might sway me, so... Okay, these next authors are authors that I've really not heard of, so I've been trying to learn more about their writing. And first is a Montreal-based author, Frankie Barnet, who, or Barnet maybe, has a new novel coming out called Mood Swings. And this seems to be a book about the environment and how we treat nature and the animals in this stage of revolt against humankind. And I was mostly intrigued by this idea because it talks about how the pets get wiped out completely and what impact that has. So that has my attention. Another debut novel is I Hope This Finds You Well by Calgary-based writer Natalie Sue. And this is a workplace comedy novel that I'm hoping works. I do like when humor is used in literature. And I've read some books that were set in workplaces, the workplace settings that I really, really liked, and others that I didn't like so much. So I'm hoping that this is a good one. Leanne Toshiko Simpson is a writer from Toronto, and her debut novel is Never Been Better. And this is a rom-com set in a psychiatric facility. And Simpson herself lives with bipolar disorder, and this work is inspired by her time spent in a psych ward and mental health advocacy work that she does. If you're interested in books that, talk about mental illness, then I think that this might be one to try. Next up is another Alberta author, and this is Sarah Everett. She has written several books for teens. Her books explore identity, race, and belonging, and her novel is called The Probability of Everything. And it follows an 11-year-old girl who dreams of being a scientist. And with her love for probability, she calculates that an asteroid has a very high probability of hitting the Earth in about 4 days. So that sounds interesting. This next author, I feel like I should know something about her, but I really don't. And it's Amy Lee, who is an Ottawa-based contemporary romance writer. Her work centers on romantic comedies for adults and teens. Her previous novels, maybe some of you have heard of these, they include Woke Up Like This, and this was on the Canada Reads 2024 long list, and I think that that's probably why I feel like I should know it. But that memory is very vague in my mind, and I obviously didn't read it. So she's also written X's and O's and Set on You. And then the final novel in Leah's influencer trilogy is called The Catch, and it stars a fashion influencer whose influence is in need of a power boost. So I might be interested in these, especially, since I have been enjoying other rom-coms. So if there is a good balance between the rom and the com, then, I think that I might like it. Okay, Reuniting with Strangers is by Jenna Lee Austria Bonifacio, who is a Filipino-Canadian author. And this is a linked story collection that explores feelings of displacement and estrangement that immigrants feel when migrating to Canada. Michael V. Smith is a writer based in Kelowna, BC, and his books include his memoir, which is called My Body Is Yours, and the novel Bad Ideas. He also has a poetry collection called Queers Like Me, which reflect on his experiences being queer in a small town. Another author from BC is Brandon Reed, who is a member of Heiltsuk First Nation, I hope I'm saying that correctly, with a mix of Indigenous and English ancestry. His first book, Beautiful, Beautiful, is a debut coming-of-age novel that explores the beauty of rural and urban landscapes, his relationship with masculinity, and the task of reconciling an Indigenous way of life and a Western way of life. I'm hoping I'm going to say this next one correctly as well. Ashley Kilovac Savard is an Inuk writer and artist from Iqaluit, which is in Nunavut. And I am very interested in following her work, partly because, we don't have many writers, from our northern territories, and we really need their stories. So when there are authors emerging from there, then I like to, pay attention. And she is the author of I Am a Rock, which is a picture book about a pet rock and all that this rock sees and feels and hears as part of the land in the Arctic. And I think that this is great for teaching young ones about our connection to the land. Next up is an author born in Ontario, but now based in BC, and it's Logan Paylor. Their debut novel is The Cure for Drowning. And the main character in this novel is Kit McNair, born Kathleen, who doesn't fit the expectations of a farm girl. Here's another one that I hope I say this somewhat correctly. Kotuku Titihuia Nuttall is an author and poet who has lived in both New Zealand and British Columbia, and her breakout work is called Tauhu, and it examines Indigenous families, womanhood, and it reimagines post-colonial histories and futures. and it's set on alternate versions of Vancouver Island and New Zealand. So in this story, these locations are actually beside each other in the ocean, and each chapter contains a poem, a short story, and a form of memory. So the structure for this sounds interesting, and I wouldn't mind seeing what that's like. Sadie Muqtadir is the Toronto-based author of the debut novel Land of No Regrets. This is about 4 students who become fast friends, and the chaos that then ensues when they start playing pranks and rebelling against the difficult and sometimes violent teachers at an Islamic school. So this is interesting because I don't think I've ever read a book set in an Islamic school. And of course, I'm always interested in the friendships in literature. Eloise Marsai is a Montreal-based author, artist, and illustrator. Naked, Confessions of a Normal Woman is her first book, and it's supposed to be a candid and funny memoir that follows the author as she explores her own sexuality and learns to live free of shame. So I don't know about this one. I don't know if it's really my thing, but maybe, I'd need a little bit more before I'd actually pick this up. Deepa Rajagopalan is an author based in Ontario, and I really liked the title of this collection of short stories. It's called Peacocks of Instagram. These stories are about South Asian women. Yes, South Asian women in the diaspora. And there are tales of revenge and love and desire and family. Christina Cook is next on the list, and she is a Jamaican-Canadian writer based in New York. And her book is called Brought Upsy, and it's a debut novel, which is about balancing queerness and her Jamaican upbringing. Next is a graphic novel by Cassandra Callan, who is a Montreal-based author and illustrator. And The New Girl is a middle-grade graphic novel about Leah and her family's move to Canada from Romania. I think this is loosely based on her own story. Zilla Jones is an African-Canadian author based in Winnipeg, and she seems to have a lot going on. So her debut novel, The World So Wide, and a short fiction collection is called So Much to Tell, and these are both coming in 2025 and 2026. A Yang is a Chinese-Canadian author and poet, and she is the author of Linghun. It's a ghostly tale of those who are still holding on to the land of the living, and they are burdened in death by their grief. That could be interesting. I do like those themes. Mohawk author Cheryl Isaacs is based in Ontario and has a YA novel coming out called The Unfinished, and it is an exploration of Indigenous culture by way of a speculative fiction tale of monsters, mystery, and secrets that refuse to stay submerged. So we'll see. Maybe. Vincent Anioke is a Nigerian-Canadian who lives in Ontario, and his debut short story collection is called Perfect Little Angels. And these stories are mostly set in Nigeria, and it explores themes of masculinity and living up to society's expectations. And the final author on the list is Kailash Srinivasan, I hope I'm saying these correctly, who is an Indian-Canadian author living and working in Vancouver. His work explores themes of societal, economic, religious, and political fractures, injustice, and inequality. He's written short stories such as one called The Baby, and he writes poetry, and he's currently working on his debut novel. So those are the 30 Canadian authors that CBC is saying they are currently making a splash. And it's interesting to look back on these after a few years and see you know, how these authors are doing and what they've done. I will leave links to the videos that I did like this over the past few years. I think I have 2 or 3 of these. So you can see if you have read any of them or if some of them have become more prominent. Please let me know if you have read any of these 30 authors. You know, are there any that you would recommend, or are there any that you are more interested in than others? I would love to hear all about that. Also, a quick reminder to please don't forget to vote for your top Canadian books of the 21st century if you haven't already. That link and info will be below as well. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.